Well, good morning. Good morning. It's morning for like 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes of morning. I'm Pastor Kristen. Please keep eating. I'm just going to get the meeting rolling. And the first thing I want to do is say a really big thank you to Connie, who made our lunch for us. She's probably now cleaning up our lunch for us. But Connie, thank you. It's delicious. Can you hear me? Is it loud enough? No, it's not loud enough. Louder. Well, it's a relay system here. Is that better? Okay, thumbs up now. All right. Well, I want to thank you for making time for the annual meeting today. We have a full agenda, so we'll try to keep things moving. I want to start us off with a really brief devotional moment and prayer. And I'd like to just acknowledge that there is a lot happening in our communities, in our state, across our nation and around the world. And that's always true, and right now we are keenly aware of all of what's happening, particularly here in the Twin Cities. And if you are like me, you might be having a little trouble holding it all together. We have our normal lives to live while we are paying attention to the headlines and wondering what they mean. And we talked as staff and leadership a little bit about how an annual meeting might feel insignificant or unimportant compared to other things that are going on. And I think the promise for us is that when we can't hold it together, God can and does. God holds us individually. God holds us together as a congregation. God gives us our identity as God's beloved children, knits us together as Farmington Lutheran, gives us our mission to share God's love and to serve our neighbors. And God holds us when things are falling apart. One of the verses we're going to be hearing a lot about today and in the coming years is, I think, the next one on the, thank you, here it comes. Ooh, the suspense. There's so many Bible verses. What could it be? It's Romans 8:28. It'll show up eventually. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. Even in the muck and the hard stuff and the pain and the brokenness, God is still at work and is at work for good. So while we acknowledge all that's going on, we also want to take time to celebrate that God is at work for good. God has done some incredible things through this community in the last year and is at work now, and we're excited about where God's calling us to go. So we try to hold that together, our pain and our worry and our fear and our anger, and also our joy and gratitude for a God who is always at work for good. So we're going to just let that all be here and trust that God is holding on to us. I'll offer a word of prayer and then we'll continue. Jesus, thank you for your promise that you are always with us, always surrounding us and working through us in times that are hard and in times that are joyous and in times that are both simultaneously. We lift before you all of our neighbors, our siblings who live in fear these days, who are under threat of one sort or another, and all who grieve. We remember especially the families and friends of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and the extra pain that comes with a loss that's so public. We pray for them. We pray for all of our dear ones who are grieving and fearful and angry and wondering what to do. And we give you thanks for this community, for Farmington Lutheran, for the many ways that you have been and are and will be at work for good, for our good and for the good of our neighbors near and far. We ask that you would bless this time. Help us to notice and celebrate what you have been up to and to look forward with faith and trust and confidence to what you will do next. We pray it in your strong name. Amen. All right, turn it over to Michelle.
Good morning. Ooh, can you hear me? Okay. So my name is Michelle Beauvais. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I have had the pleasure over the past year of serving as the church council president, and I am going to be facilitating our meeting today. So, okay, we got the slides working. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jen. Okay, I'm going to ask for the council to pass out the ballots. Don't worry, you don't need to vote yet, but I'm gonna walk you through, and several times we're gonna refer back to the ballots. So that's gonna help keep us on track along with these slides. A couple of things for housekeeping. We're gonna try to keep it moving. We do have a very full schedule, as Kristen alluded to, but we're gonna try to keep it moving. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order at, someone give me a time, 12:03. Betsy, our secretary, is over here taking minutes, so that's, I'm gonna look to her, and we're gonna help her with motions and names and all of those things. We do follow Robert's Rules of Order. You don't need to necessarily know what that is. Luckily, I don't necessarily always know what that is. Luckily, my vice president, Jared, is an expert, and so he's gonna help us make sure we stay on track and follow those rules. But so we will call for motions, we will have discussion, we will take votes. So that's how this will work today. I'm so excited and happy to tell you we have already met quorum, more than quorum, so that's always the first thing we need to make sure we take care of, is that we have enough people to conduct our business. Thank you for showing up. We are there. If you haven't signed in, though, we do want to capture all of the members who are at our annual meeting. So if you did not sign a clipboard, you can raise your hand, and we'll make sure we get one to you. Jeff, right behind you here. Couple up here. Perfect. Thank you. And then we'll make sure everyone gets a ballot as well. If you're joining us from the live stream, you should have a ballot online today as well, and all the materials for the meeting. Okay, let's dive into our agenda. I don't know what button to hit. All right. Nope, there we go. I'm just too fast for it. Okay, so this is our agenda for today. I'm going to start with taking a motion to approve our agenda and our minutes for last year's meeting. We're going to have a greeting from Pastors Ben and Kristen, or one of the two. Someone's going to greet us. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to talk through the mission and ministry reports. They are all in front of you in this packet. If you have this has all of our ministry reports in it for the past year. And then we've got a couple updates to share. So an update on our call process, an update on the Constitution. We'll do elections for the various council positions and the committees that have terms up. And we'll talk through our budget. We'll talk through a couple of other things, and then we'll adjourn. All right, so Ken, first of all, I would like to, if I can get a motion to approve our agenda for today.
So moved.
Thank you. If you could say your name.
June Olson.
June Olson. And then, do I have a second for that motion? Okay, Jamie Berg, thank you, Jamie. Any discussion of the agenda? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, that motion passes. You will notice on your ballot, does everyone have a ballot in front of them at this point? Okay, so you will notice on your ballot, there's the first three motions we're actually going to do verbally. You can also go ahead and mark them on your ballot, that's fine. And then the other things, as we talk through the different agenda items, we'll refer back to the ballot. So I'll help keep you looking at the right piece of paper. Okay. The next item is the approval of last year's annual meeting minutes. So those, again, are in the materials that you've seen or that you have in front of you. And I would like to call for a motion to approve last year's annual meeting minutes. Thank you, Karen Brownowell. Do I have a second? Second by Jay Bago, thank you. Any discussion of last year's meeting minutes? Anyone have a different recollection? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Excellent. Okay, I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the pastors.
Thanks for being here. I'm Ben, and I want to just take a few moments to introduce and thank our staff and our council this year. A lot of the management and day-to-day things of this church happen because of the work of all of our staff and all of our council members. So if you're on staff, I know Jen is behind the scenes in the booth over there, but Lois is already standing. Good job, Lois. Teresa, music director. Dawn is in the room. Isaac, where's your mom? Dawn?
She might be down.
Dawn's
helping
chair's
with-
over there. You can acknowledge yes right there. Where's Dawn
She's
is?
probably down helping with all the
Probably
kids.
helping with the children, which seems on brand.
Fitting.
So that's good for her. So if you would thank staff for all of the work and all the hours they put in to make all the things happen. All this stuff we're about to talk about that happened in 25 and we're hoping for in 26 happens with the partnership and work of your Farmington Lutheran staff. And then if you're on council, if we're on council this past,
We also have a couple staff who aren't here, but we do want to thank them too. Heather is our finance coordinator, and Dustin is our new facilities person, and we're really grateful for them too, even though they're not here.
right.
Okay.
If you're on council this past year, would you please stand where you are too so we can just see who the leadership in this room is right here? Thank you for all of your work and conversations and votes and all that stuff for being church in the leadership role too. Would you please thank them with your hands as well today? Thank you. So we're going to walk through some 2025 highlights, and then we're going to talk a little bit later about the things that we're most excited about and the opportunities and visions and dreams to come in the next year, 2, 3, however long that might be. But we'll start with some highlights from 2025.
Pastor Jeff joined us right at the beginning of the year, and he has concluded his time here just a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to mention what a gift he was, the right person at the right time for our staff, for our congregation, and it was really a joy to get to know him and to have him here. So that's a highlight, and we're grateful.
And he's, I think, currently in Hawaii, so you can all feel very bad for him, you know? If you're watching in the live stream, Jeff, we don't feel bad for you. But we love you and thank you for your time and your humor and your leadership in the right places and times. One of the big highlights that happened kind of last spring, kind of a rolling start, was the 4 Farmington groups. So we've mentioned this kind of collaboration before, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit and then turn it over to Kristen, but it's really kind of the work of Jen and Kristen together, who looked around Farmington and said, well, unlike Rosemont, which we've done some site studies on, and other neighboring communities, there's not a consolidated network of organizations, churches, nonprofits, and so on, to work together if something were to happen, a natural disaster or an event or emergency, whatever the case might be. And so invitations started going out to the community to meet roughly quarterly to see if we could better communicate and overlap in a helpful and not obstructive kind of way with each other to better serve our neighbors in need in Farmington and slightly beyond that. And so I don't even know the number of all the groups or folks that have been, but so far we have had staff or administrators from every one of the Farmington schools, guidance counselors and social workers through 360 communities and beyond. The superintendent and his staff have been here, Farmington Police, Farmington Fire, Rotary. We've had contact with Lions Club about getting them involved, about 6 churches, the library, community ed. Who are we missing? Lots of these groups have, Rambling River Center, so lots of these groups and leaders have been in the same room together to talk about all the ways that we can better serve each other and our neighbors, and there's been some really remarkable fruits of those efforts.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. There are a lot of stories to tell. Each meeting that we have folks who say, oh, that's who you are, or someone will say, we noticed this, we have this event every year, and this year our numbers were down. And someone else will say, well, this happened at ours, and here's what we can do about it. There have been some new partnerships that have emerged. The coat and winter gear drive that we do here each year, this year expanded significantly. We partnered with the library. They wanted to bring more people into their building, and we thought we might reach more people if we held an event there as opposed to here in the building. And so 75 or more folks, families, got winter gear just from the one-day event that we had there. We had the police chief, Nate Seam, was here sharing about their Toys for Town drive. And 2 years ago now, they had worked with Hy-Vee to get these meal vouchers, and families could sign up for them, and then they had some left over. And 2 years ago, they just didn't get used. So he mentioned that at a For Farmington meeting, and one of the Community 360's social workers said, well, I know a lot of families that could use those meals. So she and the police department hooked up, and this year, after the Toys for Town event, they drove around, and more than 30 families got a Christmas meal because they had made that connection at a For Farmington meeting. So it's just kind of getting rolling. It seems like it's growing all on its own and has really been a gift that we're really excited about.
This has become a place, it already was a place to some degree where people knew who we were and what we do and how we're connected. It has increasingly become a place that the community seems to us to recognize as somewhere to go if they want to help or if they need help in some sort. I told a story in worship not too long ago. One of the social workers at the schools reached out to us because there was a family there that the heat broke, sent a text to a number of you who found someone who would do it, and they donated the work for that. So little things like this are all fruits of that organization and that effort, and that's part of your work of being church together to facilitate that. Some of the things that have also been shared in those settings are the community meals. We continue to feed people. I mentioned that in worship today, too, as a primary work of this church in lots of ways. Food in the Fourth surpassed 30,000 pounds of food, and it's continuing to grow. One of the things we're imagining is creating a grant program to farm that program out to other congregations to help them start Food in the Fourth. There's a number of churches that do this now. Shepherd of the Valley is doing it because they learned from us. There's a bunch of other congregations that are picking up on this, and so I'd love to continue to make that part of feeding the South Metro and beyond as well. And then the community meal twice a month. John One has wrangled that into existence and continues to do so. He's going to mention that a little bit later on, an opportunity in worship. Another highlight was the Signs of Life campaign. We have a new big, beautiful sign that appeared with a lot of effort and planning. Thanks to all of you for that campaign that both sustained ministry in that last budget year. We'll hear a little bit more about those pieces, but also the sign. People have come to the community meal, or they have stopped by for coats, or they have come by for worship because we're more visible now in that way than we have been ever at this site before. So the Sign of Life was definitely a sign, highlight from this past year too.
A number of things under the children, youth, family, teenage category that have been highlights. We've been using a new model with Sunday and Wednesday school, FLC time, which has been really fun to do some experimenting and to get feedback from the kids about what they enjoy, what works and what doesn't. And our pre-con and confirmation programs continue to be lively, might be one word for it. There are 120 kids involved in there, and this is the first year where when the pre-con program that Ben and some volunteers got going, the first group of kids that were in that inaugural class are now our 9th graders. And so we're seeing the fruits of, they're over there.
Those kids. So part of the intent behind pre-con, when we changed the format of confirmation program, some of us held our breath to see if that would be okay, and it turns out that it has. We're going to make some videos. Teens in Christ, we've asked them to make some videos just on a Wednesday for those of you that aren't here or can't be here on a Wednesday to see what the chaos of that evening looks like, because we talk about it and you don't see it because really we have an enormous group of people on Sundays, that's you, and we have an enormous group of students and activity on Wednesdays, and the overlap of those is not significant. It's decent, but there's a lot of groups that don't see each other. It's still church in different ways. So we're going to work on putting some reels or videos together to show you what some of that looks like. But just as a taste of that, the way that those 9th graders and before them operate and facilitate participation from sixth graders when we have sixth through ninth in the same room and you have 120 kids and kids of all ages willing to raise their hands and risk answering a question in that large setting is really remarkable to watch. And so there's been a lot of successes, I think, by the work of the Holy Spirit in that too. And then
The Holy Spirit and fruit snacks.
and fruit snacks also worked, yeah. Teens in Christ is a big thing. Katie Blaha, if you'll wave, please. So last year I mentioned that worship, the annual meeting, we didn't have a significantly powered senior high youth opportunity. It's just a matter of capacity and time, really. And so Katie came to us with a couple other volunteers afterwards and said, well, if no one's doing it, I'll just do it. And Katie has established and empowered a group to go plan and lead a worship service like we just saw. So thank you, Katie, for your leadership in so many ways. And that continues to grow. Then you ended up with a couple of new lead pastors, apparently.
The jury's out on that. We weren't
So it's
sure if
good.
we should put that in the highlight category or the
Yep.
wait and see category, but
One of those idiots
Here we
broke
are.
their foot right away when that was
Yeah.
going on. So
that was a low light.
that was not a
that whole
highlight.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, his wife handled that better than she was.
She really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
oh,
thank you,
thank you.
Uh,
Okay, we really wanted to take a moment to lift up and highlight the volunteers, just generally. Every year, it's the case that this church happens because of the Holy Spirit and you all. And this past year, we just have been blown away by the volunteer engagement, by the ways that you all want to help, want to lead, want to offer what you can. So we're going to do a little experiment. Don't get nervous. It's not like you don't even have to stand up. You just have to raise your hand. If you have helped at all in the last year with anything related to children's or youth programming, so Sunday, Wednesday school, confirmation, the mentor program, providing supplies, showing up for a kick event, Little Lambs, any of that, if you have helped even once, raise your hand. Cool. Okay, keep those up. Well, no, I'll let you put it down and then you have to put it up again because your arms are going to get tired. Okay, if you have helped in any way on a Sunday morning with worship, ushering, communion, reading, greeting, the fellowship, any of that, raise your hand. Music, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Carissa. That's an important part. All right, if you have helped with funerals or any other kind of outside event where we're welcoming in
Hospitality
thank you.
pieces. You're welcome.
There's so many words, it's hard to find them. If you've helped with any of that, raise your hand.
So community meals, fellowship and service, funeral hospitality, yeah.
If you've done anything for the building, if you have helped on properties or done some gardening or weeding or come in to help paint or clean or empty garbages, anything like that.
Sanctuary, decorating, any of those things.
Yes, raise your hand. Cool. If you have attended an event, any of the programming we have here, any of the community things, the corn roast, the apple fest, if you've attended anything here in the last year, raise your hand. Okay, so if you have already raised your hand, put it back up. If you've attended an annual meeting in the last year, raise your hand.
We
Yeah,
got
look around, it's everybody.
We got them all.
We're so grateful, and you are Farmington Lutheran, and you make such a difference. So we want to offer you our thanks and have you offer each other your thanks too.
So that said, Kristen did this already a little bit once, but I want to speak into the here and now and culture around us. All of these things have happened this last year in a beautiful creation that God made and called good. And it's also a creation that's experiencing significant turmoil, especially recently and fairly locally. The theologian Karl Barth said that ministers are called to preach with the Bible in one hand and the news of the day in the other hand. It's because Jesus has something to say about the world God loves in the here and now. And often things in the here and now seem to be operating in ways that are somewhat contrary to the kingdom of Jesus. But one beacon of light, one beacon of good, I think, in the midst of all of this is this congregation and how God is at work through us for the good of our neighbors and the kingdom of God near and far. It's not uncommon for human beings to wonder from time to time if our days and our lives are making a real difference in the world. And it's also not uncommon for pastors to ask about that in their roles in their churches, maybe particularly because we recognize as pastors that we're not ultimately justified by our own accomplishments or egos. I've been told several times this morning that I'm just going to get replaced by the teens in Christ. So that's one reason. But we don't ultimately answer to councils or political powers or even synods or bishops, but ultimately to Jesus. And so we pray regularly, what are we doing and is it enough? And does it matter? And when we look around, particularly at a time such as this, we ask those questions. What are we doing here? And let us tell you, please, that what Farmington Lutheran is doing and has been doing here is being Jesus, and it is making a difference. We are here for good in lots of ways, for the community. And the community, I think, sees this, and it looks to you, as we've mentioned a little bit already. In this past year, and especially the last few weeks, we have been sought out by so many of our neighbors through the 4 Farmington Group connections and by those who are anxious for one reason or another in our state's current situation. In the past couple of weeks, so many people from within and amazingly from outside this church have reached out to Kristen and I and staff to ask how they can help. What can we do? What do people need right now? How can I help? And those are things that tell me that the church is here for good, not because we love ourselves or Farmington Lutheran, but because, as Romans 8 said in that verse, we know that God works for those who love God, and how we live that calling, this loving God thing, that has proven to mean something to members and community members and people that are only vaguely associated with this church. They understand somehow that Farmington Lutheran is here for good and a place to go for help and to help. And so one final thank you from us, Farmington Lutheran, for being church together, for trusting us to lead in times such as these, and for being Jesus' church called to love our neighbors in times such as these. So thank you all. We'll continue our annual meeting.
Okay, so we have next on our agenda the mission and ministry reports. So again, they are all published in this booklet, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at them. So there's ministry and mission reports from all of the groups listed here. So all of our ministry teams, all of the teams that keep this place running, as well as reports from myself, from our pastors, and so from each of these committees. So the next step here is to take a motion to approve the submitted reports. So some of them are fairly brief. They're really just reports of all the activity that's happened over the past year. So I will ask if there is anyone who would like to make a motion to approve the submitted reports. This is also on your ballot, but we're going to do a verbal vote on this one as well. So you can go ahead and vote on your sheet as well. But I'll ask for a motion for the approval of the submitted mission and ministry reports. Thank you, Phyllis. Phyllis, please. Anyone want a second? Charlene Betson. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, we're going to move right along in our agenda, and I'm going to... Is someone talking on this?
That's me.
Okay, I was like, I don't know if someone else is going to say this. I was going to call Chris, our treasurer, up. So thank you to Chris Lynch, who's been our treasurer over the past year, and he's going to go through our 2025 numbers.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. For those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to work with or meet, my name is Chris Lynch, and I was the treasurer for 2025 financial year. Before we dive into the numbers, I just want to say a huge thank you. This ministry, everything at FLC doesn't happen without everyone working together in a very collaborative way. So first off, thanks to Bob Brownowell for setting up 2025. He was our treasurer in 2024 and helped lay the foundation and groundwork for 2025. Special thank you to Heather Pfeiffer. She's our finance coordinator at FLC, and she's been a great partner this year as I've kind of stepped into this role. And with her partnership and attention to detail with the bookkeeping here at FLC, it's been great. Special thank you to our council, our pastors, our staff, our finance team, and all of our ministry teams, and you, the congregation, for all your strong communication, collaboration, and your giving generosity. Again, fulfilling the mission of FLC wouldn't be possible without everyone working together, so thank you. Today's finance conversation is based off of the treasurer's report that I submitted, the 2025 financial data, and the proposed 2026 budget, which is all in your annual report starting on page 24. So as we start, a year ago, we sat at this meeting and we passed a balanced budget that had $930,000 in receipts and proposed, and $930,000 in expenses. Actual receipts came in just a little bit underneath of that, came in at just over $895,000, so $36,000 under our proposed budget. When we talk about receipts, what that really means is the income for the church. And that isn't just from offerings, it's from all the programmatic areas, from the children's, from the youth, from our special appeal that we had over the years. Interest earned on savings that we have in our reserve account, rentals from the facility. So it's a whole combined approach to income. If we look at just offerings for 2025, they came in at just over $800,000 on a budget of $860,000. So that's just about $58,000 short. Offerings did start off rather strong in the year, and then they kind of plateaued as the year went on. But more to come on that. When you look at the income, the other streams that we've talked about, the children's, the youth, some of the rental, that did help to offset some of the deficit that was generated from the offerings. When we look at the expense side of 2025, we had again a budget of $930,000. They came in just slightly over that at $937,000, but all in all, really strong year on expenses. And actually, they would have come in slightly under budget, but there were two minor things that kind of came into the budget world at the end of the year. One of those is a payroll timing. So payroll for January actually was accrued in the end of December, and so we created kind of an expense deficit due to that. Also, we've been struggling with our electricity bill for a good chunk of the year, and that was $6,000 over budget. We think that we've isolated some of the issues, and we're hoping to see that trend decrease in 2026. So going to the next slide, it talks about our offering history, going back to 2019. And if we exclude 2023, 2023 was one of those years that we've tried to explain and we just don't know how. But all in all, offerings have been relatively flat year over year. And when you think about it, offerings make up 80 to 90% of the total income of the church. And if you look on the screen there, the shaded cells do show that there were special appeals factored into those offerings for those years. So with everything that we've talked about, the year did end with an unfortunate loss of $44,000 on the books. But I don't want that number to overshadow all the good and all the excitement and all the energy that's happening in this place. Today's worship service was a prime example. There is so much going on and so much energy happening. And I want to say that we're in a strong financial place. So again, that number is just the number for 2025. But when you look at a holistic look at our church, we're in a very strong financial place. In addition to the worship service today, we're always looking for ways to be good stewards of the finances at the church. A couple small examples of that. This year in January, we bought a copier. How exciting is that? But what that really means is we actually lowered our expenses. And so far, since we purchased the copier, our copying expenses have gone down $6,000 just this year alone. We've also been strategic in the way that we manage the funds. So in years past, we've talked about CDs where we have our reserve funds invested in, and that has accrued some interest. We also have a money market savings account where the reserve funds are that is accruing interest as well. So those little steps add up to making positive change in the budget. When we look back, just going back over the appeals that we've had over the last couple of years, with 2025 being the Signs of Life appeal, so the budget did realize a $35,000 income from that, but it was bigger than that. We were able to purchase the sign and also give outreach towards their community as a whole, which is all excellent and great stewards. If we switch to the cash side of our budget, you're going to see a decline in our cash balance, and that's due to the decline in income for the year. Then if we move on to the mortgage, we're still chipping away at that mortgage month by month and year by year. Our current outstanding balance is $736,000, and this year we were able to pay down $95,000 in principal. Then one more thing just to wrap up 2025. Last Sunday, we had a great team of volunteers conduct our audit. So I'd like to thank Nathan Bannock, Brandy Cook, Timothy Jackson Larson, Roger Randall, and Brandon Meyer for donating their time. We had great conversations, and the audit was successfully completed last Sunday. With that, I'd like to answer any questions you may have about the 2025 financial year. Yeah. Yeah. I am so glad you brought that up. In probably 10 minutes, you're going to hear all about a wonderful way that we can do that as a group. So thank you.
Get you your $5 later.
Any other questions? Yeah, for those of you on the live stream, the question was, are there any plans to keep paying down the mortgage at a faster rate? And yes, more to come. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it and all the work that you do. So for those of you who don't know, Chris has a full-time job, and being our treasurer is his second full-time job. Or at least for as many hours as you spend here, it seems like it. So thank you for all the work you do. I would like to invite June up now to give a brief update, and Maddie maybe? Okay, June and Maddie up to give an update on the call committee.
Well, this is an unusual microphone situation. Hold it down here, it's more impressive. Anyway, I just discovered when I got here this morning for church that we're supposed to give an update. So, Maddie, we're giving an update. And I wrote it on a napkin. And it's a very, obviously, the call committee is a serious thing. So first of all, greetings from the call committee for the Minister of Youth and Community Connection. Maddie, I wanted up here because she's my very important co-chair. We're working together, and how awesome is it to have somebody from the youth on the call committee for the youth minister. So the call committee, if you've been on one, is sort of a silent, it's a silent committee, and there's a lot of reason for that. So this is my update for today. We're still working through the process. We're keeping in touch with the Synod, and we will keep you informed as the process moves forward. Thank you.
Short and sweet, love it. Thank you. Thank you, June, and thank you, Maddie, and to the entire call committee for all your work. We appreciate it. Okay, we are going to move into what is sure to be the most exciting part of this meeting. Sorry, Chris, probably even more exciting than budget. Okay, so we have some Constitution updates. So just to level set, you've heard me talk about the Constitution. I think this is maybe the third year in a row now. I don't know. I guess I owe it to Mr. Bob Brownowell that I'm now the Constitution expert around here. So thank you, Bob. So we are governed by a Constitution. It is made up of provisions, as you can see, provisions and things that are handed down to us from the ELCA and from the St. Paul Area Synod, as well as things that we have put in there about how we want this place to run. Every 3 years, the ELC and the Synod review their sort of standard language, if you will, and make updates to that required language. So there's requirements that have to be in all of the church's constitutions. This year, we have some updates. They include some very minor changes to format, for clarity, for consistency, and just kind of overall comprehensiveness. So what we need to do today is to vote on incorporating these changes this year into our Constitution, and then next year we will ratify them. So we had the same thing. We've been kind of going through this cycle a little bit. You may also remember that we made some updates to our Constitution back in August to change it to read as a co-lead model so that we could have Ben and Kristen co-lead in that way. So if we go to the next, thanks, Jen. The explanation, there is a very nice form. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. It's been out on our website for a couple of weeks, about a month now or so. But there's a very nice document that the St. Paul Area Synod did to explain these changes. So I'm going to ask Jen to pull that up. Thank you. And give you just a couple examples of what this language is. I'm not going to go through it line by line. If you have questions, we can certainly talk through them. But Jen, if you can just scroll down a little bit in this document. Let me pull it up so I can talk to this a little bit. So I want to give you an example. So like the first change is changing the language in the very beginning of the Constitution around names and incorporations. So for the purpose of this Constitution and the accompanying bylaws, they are adding a phrase to say, and continuing resolutions. The congregation of Farmington Lutheran is here and designated as this congregation. So it's things like that. There's some changes that allow for just clarity, comprehensiveness, and sort of consistency throughout. So property ownership, there's some changes there. They say that the congregation can vote to relate to another Lutheran church property versus transfer. So some word changes, some semantics changes. Let me just scroll down. The one thing I did want to point out is there is one change they are making that we are not going to make because the reason is we have already made it. So there is a change around instead of having a number of required members to call a special meeting, it's now a percentage. Our Constitution, we'd already made that change. Our Constitution calls for 10%. So some of these changes that one in particular, we've already made, and some of them don't apply to us because they apply to parish churches. So let me stop. I'm not going to try to go through them in great detail. If you've read our Constitution, you know we'd be here all day long. But did anyone have any questions about any of the language that we are looking to approve to amend our Constitution based on requirements from the St. Paul Area Synod? Have I put everyone to sleep? Okay, so this is one of the things that you're going to find on your ballot. This one we are actually going to vote on our ballots, but I do need to call for a motion to approve the Constitution changes proposed by the St. Paul Area Synod. So if I could get someone to make that motion. Thank you, Paul Landwehr. Can I get a second? Thank you, Carolyn Ryan. All right, so I'm not going to call for a vote. You can vote for that. This is not in order. It's the very last thing on your ballot, but you could vote for that on your ballot. If there's no other discussion or questions on that topic. Okay, then we're going to move on into elections. This is another section of your ballot that I'm going to refer you back to because we have it on the slide. You'll have it on the slides here when they catch up to us, but also in your ballot, we are going to elect some new council members. So as a reminder, council members serve a 3-year term, so we constantly have people rolling on and rolling off of council. So I'm very grateful to Jamie Berg and Matt Dimich and Jim Halverson who have agreed to be nominations for 3-year terms for council. Matt for the second go-round, so thank you for that, Matt. And then as far as our church officers, Linda Landwehr has graciously agreed to step into the role of president again in the upcoming year. Jessica Campbell, who will be joining us, is going to join executive as vice president, and then Betsy Graw is going to continue to serve in her role as secretary. So thank you to the 3 of them. We have a couple of openings on our endowment committee. So Holly Hins has agreed to serve a 2-year term. That's a 2-year term because someone is in the middle of a 3-year term and is stepping down. And then Tim Grunler and Janelle Guzik are both nominations for a 3-year term for the endowment committee. And then last but not least, we have one open role in our nominating committee. That's a 2-year term. And Aichi Foster has agreed to be a nomination for that committee. So you can see that on your ballot. You can see it on the slides here as we went through them. I would like to call for any additional nominations at this time for any of those council positions, officer positions, endowment committee, and nominating committee positions. Any other additional nominations? Okay. Yeah. Correct. 3 positions, 3 open positions for council, 1 open position for president, 1 for vice president, 1 for secretary, and then the 3 terms for endowment and the 1 for the nominating committee. Correct. Does that help? The question was if I could clarify how many open positions there were. Okay. Okay, if there are no additional nominations, then I will ask for a motion for these open nominations for these people listed here. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Second? In the back. Mr. Ryerson. Got it? Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to call for a vote on that. You can vote again on your ballots. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Lynch. Yes? Thank you.
All right. So as we transition into the 2026 finance year, we kind of took a step back over the last 6 months, and we've tried to take a look at the financial organization of the church. And we wanted to be able to answer the question, is the budget and are the finances working and performing the way the church does? For the most part, we could say yes, but there were some areas that we identified for improvement. So 2 of those initiatives for 2026 that, again, we've been working on for the last couple months were a dedicated account reorganization. And so we have accounts that weren't used or haven't been used in quite a while. We have some accounts that had similar missions to them, and so we were able to combine and consolidate our list of accounts for increased transparency and visibility and accountability for those funds. We also did a budget structure reorganization, and again, along those lines, it was just structure in nature, and just making sure that in each area, so whether it's children's or youth, that the budget and the way the money was spent matched the way the programs worked. And so that's what we are proposing for 2026. Again, we are proposing a balanced budget for 2026 with total receipts and expenses equaling $946,560. On the income side, that's about a 5% growth year over year, and most of it being on the offering side. It will include a $35,000 appeal that you're going to hear more about shortly. On the expense side, it's a very small increase in expenses. It did provide for a 2% raise for our directors and our hourly staff, and provide up to a 2.25 FTE for our pastoral staff. So as we're working through that call process, we'll see where that all lands. So that is the 2026 budget proposal in a nutshell. I'd like to open it up for any questions that people may have. Okay.
Shortest budget discussion we've ever had, so excellent. Okay, so next I think I'm having either one of our pastors. Oh, yeah, you're not gonna start? Okay, Jared, you're up. Okay.
Sorry, I lost track of where we were.
That's all right.
We're going to talk about that mortgage situation. About 2 years ago, some of you remember, we announced that we'd received a $250,000 gift that kind of fell from the sky from a generous member of the community. And a little piece of that went towards seeding and matching gifts that went towards the sign, but the rest of that has been held in reserve and has kind of started a conversation about debt reduction in the mortgage. So there's a little over $200,000 of that gift left, and that has really spurned a conversation, or started a conversation on with a team of folks who are assembled in a stewardship team to think about strategizing the use of that for the retirement of the paying down of the budget. And so there's a number of folks, mostly in this room, who kind of met to spin and talk about what we could do, what the possibilities might be. And so we're going to talk about some scenarios. For the snapshot, as Chris said, we have $730-some thousand left in the mortgage right now. And we pay that monthly out of the budget in the amount of like $10,200, something like that. And so if that's gone, that's a big difference in what we have just simply for the budget we have now. That changes things from having kind of a stretch goal of a budget and having spring appeals that kind of bridge those gaps to having something like a $90,000, if everything just stayed the same, like a $90,000 surplus every year. And there's a lot of things we could do with that. So Jared's going to walk you through. This is designed by Jared. We've settled on For Good as the name of this campaign based on that Bible verse that we read a couple times this morning. So thanks to Jared for the image and for running us through some of these scenarios that we've thought about.
So one of my highlights at this place from 2025 happened in that room over there. And if you got to come to our Story, Our Future event that was part of our transition process, as we were working through that, one of the things we got to do is we got to set this timeline up. And Carolyn brought in, clippings from years and years ago in previous buildings, and I had such a good time seeing some of our story as we look backwards. And today, this very day, we come in to this building, we come through these doors, and we find hope, and we find our youth leading us in worship, and we find grace and hopefully a moment of peace in the midst of all of this chaos. So now, if you will look with me toward the sanctuary, right at the front of our sanctuary, we've got this stained glass, and when we look through that lens, when we look through that stained glass, when we look through the lens of Jesus, we see the world with a different kind of hope and a different kind of grace. We are here, FLC family, for good. We are here for good. And our community needs goodness right now, right? We need it today, and we're going to need it tomorrow. So through Word and Deed, church, we're saying together, we are here. This community is here for good. So today, we are announcing this pathway to our enduring purpose as a community of faith in this city and this county and this state, in this country. So this spring, we will fully launch. Today is our announcement, and this spring we'll fully launch For Good, this campaign that is aimed at eliminating our building mortgage, solidifying our financial standing, and doing a lot of good in our community. As we heard throughout, this theme verse comes from Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. That's us, ourselves, and that's us as a community. So Ben mentioned this gift. This gift became a catalyst for this dreaming and the conversations that we were having around this, and your pastors and your church council and your financial and stewardship leaders thought through and prayed through and talked through what could get enabled. And our building mortgage came into focus when we thought about what could happen with this significant gift. You remember we used part of this gift this last spring to seed the Signs of Life appeal, and a lot of that is still left. And so we considered a few options and crunched some numbers around these options. And so you'll see three things. One, this is our current standing. All right, so as Chris said, here's our balance there on the left. Our current standing, if we were to just continue to do what we're doing, we'd have a payoff date in October of 2032. You can see the numbers, 717 on total principal paid, 124 in total interest paid. That'll take 75 months from kind of starting this April as our point in starting time as we think about these possibilities. So this is if we just kept paying like we're paying and kept doing what we're doing. That was one thing we considered. Here's the next one. If we were to take the $200,000 that remains from this significant blessing gift that we were given and simply use that to make additional principal payments just by itself, we could pay this mortgage off sooner. By September of 2030, you'll see a little less principal overall and a total interest paid of not quite $62,000 at 57 months of payment. The other option is to do this together, to come together like we have always done. So that's what we're announcing today is this proposal to, again, eliminate this mortgage in 2 years or less. So we'll hear in a moment what that would enable for us, but I'll say this much. That would mean approximately $120,000 in room in our budget annually to do the good, to be here for good, like we've talked about together. During that transition process, in this pastoral transition process, we had some conversations and we asked you, all of us, what we thought were things that could be in the way of the kind of community that we wanted to be. And two things rose to the top: staffing and budget. That's what we said together. This opportunity, this pathway speaks to both of those things. So today is this announcement. There's much more information to come. There's much more opportunity to come, much more conversations to come. Begin to dream yourself and talk with and think about yourself and your family and the impact that you might want to be a part of. We are here for good. Our pastors are going to share some of what that good could look like as we go on this journey together.
Thank you, Jared. So to put some of the number differences up there just into perspective, current payment plan versus a 24-month sort of timeline just makes $80,000 of interest essentially just disappear, right? That's stuff that just doesn't simply go to the bank. Plus, within a third of the time, we end up with this budget freed up for all kinds of things. And we're going to name some of these things for you. As part of the campaign, we're going to be asking ourselves what we can do and how we can work together to fund this. The model as presented by Jared and developed by Bob and that stewardship team does rely on some significant lead gifts, does rely on some gifts. And so if you think this is something that you have capacity for or interest to, I'd love to have a conversation with you about what that might look like. It's either propose a challenge match or to offer something or to extend the invitation elsewhere where you think there may be someone who has resources who would find the For Good campaign and owning the building outright and all those things to be worthwhile for time and resources. So we'll also have some folks who are interested in having those conversations with you as well, but I invite those to you. What this enables for us is a whole lot of things that we can dream about and think about. From just a financial perspective, Chris mentioned our cash balance and our reserves. We sit at about 2 months of expenses in reserve. So we have much more. Kevin talks about the day when he came and we were choosing what bills to pay. We're not in that point now, but we have enough of a cushion for a while, but that could be more. So there's some strengthening of the financial position that could be there. There's planning for future building needs. It's 20-some years old now, and things like carpet get installed and then they don't work out, and we're going to replace this one again because there's some flaws in this, but things like the heating and painting and parking lot and all those things that come up. There is some interest in getting space with that budget to find and make room for partnerships for more renters or additional income streams. It's a pretty common thing for congregations or churches that have large facilities to make spaces in corners or offices or rooms that are open and not used for 80+% of the week to find someone who could partner to office here or to rent space for us. If that is something that you know how to do or know someone who would be interested in that, I would love to talk to you about that. That's a pretty consistent thing for churches to be seeking as an alternative income stream. And then it also offers a sense of breathing room for staff. Chris mentioned that expenses have been down in some ways that are not payroll related. We have done a pretty good job of asking when we steward your money with something for youth or for the building, where is this coming from? Is it a necessary thing now, right? There is some breathing room when we know that we're not looking at a deficit budget to say we can do this and we don't have to ask that question first and last in everything that we work with.
There's not a lot of brainstorming that's more fun than what would we do with $120,000? So we have really enjoyed thinking about all the possibilities and kind of putting them into categories. So Ben mentioned some of the finance pieces, and we also thought about our children and youth and some of the dreams we have, including some training for a Sunday school curriculum called Godly Play. Don and I have talked a lot about what that could be for our Sunday and Wednesday school kids. We've thought about guest speakers and events and outings, opportunities we'd like to give to our youth of all ages that would be a lot easier to just simply offer instead of, okay, how much do we have to ask other people to contribute to this? How do we make that happen? So dreaming about that.
And staffing and time is a big piece of the formula too. A large part of the conversation about the Minister of Youth and Community Connections was how big of a position that could be. And as of right now, it's kind of a ballpark of a 3/4 time position as it stands. Not to come in and to replace Katie and the things that are happening with youth, and not to replace my work with confirmation or pre-con, but to give those programs and the growth that they're experiencing, the resources in people that they really need. And so the capacity of that position could easily open up with the facilitation of that budget-wise. There's a whole lot growing with For Farmington and beyond, like we've already talked about. So finding space for and hiring an engagement or volunteer coordinator and growing outreach into the community, the stuff that's been happening between Kristen and Jen to reach out and be a community partner in Farmington could be easily a part-time position in itself or more. And more time, staff-wise, just gives us more options and more possibilities to lead things. It does grate on me some that there is no formal pastoral-led Bible study sort of thing here. Owls does that, Brute Theology fits that, but there's more that we could be doing that way. And also just affords us time and capacity to come and visit you and see you when it's not an emergency. We would love to do that and be able to do that more. And the restrictions of time make that a challenge sometimes.
If that does not appeal to you, you could also say, I'd like to contribute to this campaign so that Ben and Kristen don't come visit me. We're happy to work with you either way on that. Under that umbrella
It's very pastoral over here.
of pastoral care, we have talked a lot about adding additional training and support for sending more of you out to visit each other. Something like a Stevens Ministry program, a Befrienders program, a formalized way to equip you so that we can do more visits for more people more often. And also being able to offer more grief support groups and support groups that target specific events in life for health diagnosis, for long-term caregivers, for empty nesting, for some of those big milestones that have a big impact on how we understand ourselves. We'd like to facilitate more connection and support for you, which we could do.
There are also a number of dedicated funds that exist that could use a little fortification. There are things like the Family Emergency Fund or a local and global mission fund or even the building reserve that are getting to the point where people are regularly contributing to those, but it's not built into the core budget necessarily of Farmington Lutheran. And those are things that get tapped for resources and for outreach needs in our community. We'd love to continue to deepen our relationships with our international partners like Bega Quabega and Naringa Hope. Pastor Jeff said regularly that some of the marks of a healthy congregation were one that was aware of its place in the world and its connection to the wider church. And so increasing some of those relationships would be possible with a little bit more that we could direct in that direction. And then the grant program to seed Food in the Fourth, to expand feeding ministries to different congregations, other congregations elsewhere, and then simply expanding our benevolence giving. We are fortunate to have a synod that has been walking with us very faithfully and very promptly in the transition process between Kevin to Dana to Jeff, and in the call committee process now, and being supportive of us and our congregations as we navigate all sorts of different things that are happening in our state, our world. And so being a part of the mission of the St. Paul Synod is also our calling, and we can increase those pieces too. So there's a lot we could do. We would love to sit down and have a conversation about any of these possibilities, and if anything we just said is something that you would like to jump on and say, I would like to try that, or start that, or lead that group, or you didn't mention this, but I would think about this as well as a possibility. We would love to kind of build those boats. Apparently that was a big thing we talked about last year in our pastor's report, was building boats and then floating them out. And so I don't know that we actually built literal boats. But if you would like to start a program, we would help you construct it and then float it in your direction. I did not write it last year. You wrote it last year.
I don't remember the boats.
Yeah. So there's lots of things that we would like to do. But we're excited about this, more about this as it launches near Lent, and then finally kind of continues or takes off right a little bit after Easter as the timeline for this. So if you have questions about that, please direct them to either of us or to Jared or to Chris or any number of the stewardship team as well as here. Scott DeGraff is working on that, Ron Ryerson, Bob Brownowell,
Matt?
and Matt Dimich, as I see you in the room. So those are all working on this. Thank you, Jared, and thank you all.
Thank you. Exciting times here at Farmington Lutheran. Okay, so we are going to, we're near the end. We're in the home stretch, everyone. Thanks for hanging in. We are going to back up to our FLC 2026 budget. So that's the last item that you should still have on your ballot that you haven't voted for yet, because we haven't talked through the proposed vote. So we're gonna again do this on the ballot, but I will need to have somebody motion to approve the proposed 2026 FLC budget as Chris just presented it. And then we will need a second, and then we'll vote on our ballots. So, yes.
I used to sit next to somebody at the faculty meetings who's, once the principal would say, any other, you go, don't you dare. Not now. Would you put back up the, I apologize for waiting this long to ask it, but I haven't.
It's okay. I'm gonna bring you a microphone.
Would you put back the slide of the budget?
The proposed 26 budget?
Yes, please.
Jen, can you go back? There we go.
The one that there we go. What does the bottom line mean? It includes up to a 2.2 1/4 FTE for pastoral and youth
So
ministries.
the full-time equivalent for pastoral staff is what's included in the budget. So Kristen and I are both time and a half together, so neither of us are technically full-time. And that also includes the proposed 0.75 3/4 time position that's the Minister of Youth and Community Connection. So that's the less than full-time incoming position. That's what that 2.25 is estimated as for
As
pastoral staff.
incoming, the 2.25
Is
not-
total between Kristen and me
All three of them.
and the new Minister of Youth and Community
Okay,
Connection.
perfect.
That's
Okay,
what that
thank
is.
you. That's what.
Okay. Good question.
Diane.
In the new position, that's only a 3/4 position. So, and there, it's not just youth, but it's also community outreach? Is that my understanding?
It's a lot, yes.
For a 3/4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we chose 3/4 because financially?
Correct.
Okay, do we ever do a faith budget where we say, this is what we're putting out there, and can we get what we would need? Just a question.
I'll turn that over to Chris. This was a matter of conversation in a number of council meetings of what we could do. So how we got to 0.75 is a result of guesswork, really. So there was an amount that was allotted, and then based on a variety of things, rostered leaders in the area, competitive salaries and things like that. There were scenarios where the amount allotted could be a full-time position if no one needed a benefits portion, for example. And if they were eligible for benefits, then that would kind of eat that total amount. And so there's some of where that's coming from. Chris, I'll let you
Sure.
continue on that.
We, when we talk about salaries, we want it to be sustaining. We want to be able to, when we invest in an employee, we want it to be sustaining year over year. And so finding that balance of, yes, hopefully growing in offerings and total income to sustain that versus setting ourselves up for, say, a deficit. Does that answer that?
Yeah.
I mean, our goal is to always try to increase and grow in ministry and in this case, FTEs. We just want to do it responsibly. And if that means that we have to stagger that and grow into that, then that's the way that we need to do it.
You mentioned kind of a leap of faith sort of thing, not a leap even. I think part of what's implied in the 26 budget versus the 25 actual is an increase in receipts that represents a little bit of that. This isn't a stretch, I wouldn't use that word, but this represents some hope for and anticipated growth that kind of leaning into, I think was the phrase we used often in executive and council. We'll lean into what we can do and try not to overextend that. And this is an important, I think, piece to note with the debt reduction piece, is that funding there enables this to be expanded quickly, potentially. Thank you for the question. Yes, Larry.
So you mentioned the benefits. Is benefits always include with the salary, or is it always separate, or is it based on whatever you're looking for?
Yes.
Yes.
It does and it doesn't. So
It's not automatic.
no, the complexity is that if you have a rostered leader who is rostered, which means they are ordained, word in service or word in sacrament, so a pastor or a deacon, if they are at 20 hours a week or more, then it is the strong encouragement of the synod that it's also a benefit eligible position. We did keep a lot of options open depending on the candidates that may come into play. So if it was someone who was not ordained, for example, or who had a spouse that was carrying benefits for them or something, then there was room for that to be salary-based. But this includes the assumption that there will be a benefits package with this position.
So the one you're calling now, it still hasn't been decided?
They're still in
Depends on
process,
them.
correct. There
Okay.
has not been salary negotiations or any kind, they're not at that step yet.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the thoughtful, intentional questions. We appreciate it, and for the answers. All right, so I think then I'll go back to calling for a motion to approve the proposed 2026 FLC budget as Chris presented it. Okay, thank you. A second? Is there? Kathy. Give me a last name. Johnson. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Did you get that, Betsy? Kathy Johnson? Okay. Okay, so again, we won't do that. That will be a vote you do on paper. So it should be hopefully the only thing left on your paper that you haven't voted on. Any other discussion before you vote? Okay, so at this time, I have council members coming around to collect ballots. So as you know, we've all voted on everything. We're gonna do a quick tally up to make sure and see what our results are. And while we do that, I'm gonna turn it over to Ben and Kristen to do our Light of Christ Awards.
So annually, we give out some awards to people who we want to recognize for their service. They're living out their discipleship within the context of Farmington Lutheran. We'll go through these fairly quickly because we mentioned most of these already, but the first of these is to Katie Blaha. So Katie, if you would come and get your Light of Christ Award. Thank you. We've talked about Katie a couple times this morning already. The Teens in Christ sweatshirts that most of them are wearing are, I don't know, indicators that they're participating in that program. I have not seen someone able to corral and equip and kind of empower students the same way that Katie has managed with this group of students. I go to see them on a Sunday evening, and they just have their own thing, and they just do it, and Katie just kind of like gently hedges them back on course, because you'll be shocked to know that some of them tend to veer once in a while. But thank you, Katie, for your work.
All right, this one is for Mr. Logan Watts, who has done some awesome things using his 3D printer to create plaques for a number of the memorial gifts that have been given. So thank you, Logan.
We have two here, one for Jillian Lewis, one for Amy Ryerson. There has not been a Little Lambs kind of pre-K group, and so kind of like Katie said with senior high, Amy and Jillian just said, well, if no one's doing that, we'll do it now. And so Thursdays, Amy and Jillian meet with families of littles, either over here or down that way. It coincides nicely with a Thursday evening meal sometimes, and so they sit, they recap the sermon because shockingly, for some reason, they don't always hear it the first time because they're busy with their littles. And so thank you for fostering
Jillian's
that.
on the live stream.
Jillian, hi,
so
Jillian.
Thank you, Jillian.
This is for you.
Thank
So
you,
thank you both.
All right, these two have already been up here once, but for June Olson and Maddie Lynch, who could come back up again, we're so grateful for their work on the call committee. For you. Yes. And that's just one of many things that both of these two do for our congregation, so thank you both very much.
We have two more Lynches, Chris and Kristen. I'll hand those to you. Chris does all the things. Michelle was only kind of joking when she said he has a part-time job and this is his second because Chris is here.
He has a full-time job.
Yeah, that many mean. This is a part-time one, but he is here more than our kids are, and they kind of live here, and so that's weird company to be in. I'll take it. And then Kristen as well has helped out with children's teams, youth trip planning, coordinating fundraising for senior high trips, and also stepping down from a term with the endowment team. So thank you to the Lynch clan, Kristen, for your work with all those things too.
We've got one for Jeff Holt, who's here. Come on up. Jeff is new to the congregation and has jumped in with both feet, doing everything from some building stuff to running groceries
Properties and
around
shoveling and
for doing
groceries
properties and for, at this point, it's like, let's just call Jeff. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. And then John. And John One is the last one. John is also a go-getter and do the things that we need to, but John's also working on this community meal, so I invite John to come up to kind of share an invitation to that, to either help or just participate in that. We know when the weather is going to be crap because the community meal is going to happen. So because they have had so many evenings where it's snowed, sleeted. The last one was Thursday where everything just plummeted temperature-wise, and so we appreciate your meteorological prowess when it comes to that. But John will offer an invitation to you, I think, for him.
Yeah, I couldn't have done this by myself, and I'd like to thank many of you that have really stepped up and volunteered your time, money, and even coming to have a meal, which is great. And I'm hoping that the congregation can come and have a meal and invite friends. I think there's so many people today that don't go to church anymore that used to when they were younger, and I think it's a lot to do with they've had a bad experience, or they have some shame or guilt or whatever it might be. And I think having a meal with people that they're invited to come in here, like I think next one is spaghetti dinner. Tell them, a really hot restaurant that's got spaghetti dinner and bring them along. That probably wouldn't be good, but I encourage the congregation to come and take part in the meal also and invite your friends. So there's people here that if you've helped me at all, stand up, please. Or if you've come to a meal, and please stand up. There's been some great volunteers. Even advice. Karen, she's back there. She always warns me she's got an A-type personality, so I don't know if that warns me before I come in. But she's giving me some great advice, and we're sharing through the food shelf back and forth, which is really great also. So, but thank you all for your help.
I just saw a thumbs up from Matt. Sorry, I'm waiting to make sure I've got okay. I'm waiting to make sure we had enough time to count ballots, and it sounds like we're close. Okay.
We didn't have Chris or Bob there to do the math.
I know, right? Where are our treasurers when we need them? So we're all good? Okay.
Those are in 3 chunks: positions and officers, constitution.
Thank you. Okay, so our council did some tabulation, and it looks like the results are as follows. So for all of our positions, for the council positions and the officer positions and the committees, that motion carries. So congratulations to all of you stepping into those new roles, and to the point earlier about all the volunteers in this place, thank you so very, very much for helping to make sure the business of the church continues in those roles. We also have the motion for the Constitution updates as proposed by the St. Paul Area Synod. That has carried as well. So thank you for that. I will be busy making those updates to our Constitution so we can get a new one posted, and you can have something to put you to sleep at night when you can't fall asleep. You can read the new version of the Constitution. And then last but not least, our 2026 budget, that motion also carried. So thank you all for your thoughtful time and effort and just intention in thinking about the business and what we need to do to keep this place running, and for participating today. So with that, I would like to actually call up your new council president, Linda Landwehr, to close out our meeting. You can wear it or you can hold it. I
I'll
could
just-
get it
I'll
to
just
stay on
hold
my
it.
ear.
Yeah, thanks, thank you. Gosh, I don't think anybody's ever applauded for me before, so thanks for that. I'm Linda Landwehr. It's my privilege to be your council president this year. There's terrible feedback. Did you have trouble with? Yeah, I can hear myself echoing, so if I kind of trip up, that's why. If I look familiar, I was your president. Hello, hello. Thank you. I was your president in 2024 as well, and just so we're all clear, when I was asked to do this again, I said, only if Ben and Kristen do not take another call or have a baby. I'm happy with a pregnancy as long as the baby is born in 2027. So thank you for the privilege. I look forward to this year. It's exciting what's happening here. And my first order of official business is to thank the outgoing council members. So we have Julie Amdahl, and we have Michelle Beauvais, who's done a phenomenal job as our president this year. We really appreciate your steady leadership. And we have Craig Beisel, who I don't think is here, and Matt Demich, who's agreed to come back on for another 3-year term. So if we could please show our appreciation with a round of applause. And has anybody thanked the kitchen staff today? Yes? Okay. Yeah, thank you. It was delicious. Thank you very much. And my second official order of business is to close the meeting, which is the most fun thing I do all year. And so I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting, please. Paul Landwehr. Somebody wants to go home. And I saw Colleen Engman's hand go up. Do you want to second that, Colleen? Okay. Did you get that, Betsy? Any discussion about that? Disagreement? Okay. The motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.